Hi, I'm Ben Meyer.
And I'm Rob Wright.
Welcome to 2008. Rob and I are just recently back from CES. It was a bit disappointing for gaming.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot there for gaming.
And speaking of disappointing, this week we wanted to talk about the 2007 year in PC gaming sales and sort of the industry, because it had a really disappointing sales year.
Yeah.
And we're trying to figure out why. We wanted to talk a little bit about that. We went back and looked at a lot of the statistics, and it looked like PC gaming really, the only games that were really selling well were World of Warcraft, Burning Crusade. It was the only title that sold over 1 million copies in 2007. And a lot of the Sims titles, which had been out for a while now. And, titles like Crysis, obviously it came out later in the year, but really only sold 83,000 copies. Your game of the year, Call of Duty, didn't sell 100,000 copies before the end of the year. And by contrast, the console version of Call of Duty sold, I think, 1.5 million in its first month.
Just on the 360 alone.
So huge difference in scale. Even Kane and Lynch, despite all that controversy, sold 1 million copies. So, and then you have really highly promoted games like Unreal Tournament 3 that it did maybe 40,000 in 2007.
And in its first month, it struggled to get around 30,000.
Yeah, so really poor considering the marketing. So it hasn't been a very good year for PC sales. It's down again.
Yeah.
So putting that to you, Rob, what do you think are some of the big reasons for that?
Sometimes numbers can be deceiving, but in this case, I don't think they really are. I think what you see is what you get. When the original World of Warcraft is one of the best-selling PC games of the year, and it's in the top. It was in the top 2 or 3, right?
Yeah, it was number 2.
And Crysis, gets around 80,000 in its first month, and it still hasn't really sold well. I think something is. It's more than just a trend. I think there may be more of a shift going on, I think, in PC gaming. And, look, there's a lot of apprehension over buying a title like Crysis because people are afraid that it's not going to run the way they want it to on their current PC hardware. There's some apprehension about what am I going to need to invest in my PC to play this game. And that's understandable. But, when you look at the numbers for Unreal Tournament 3, Quake Wars, Call of Duty 4. That's a Game of the Year title right there.
Yeah.
When you look at the retail numbers, they're not good.
Yeah, those numbers that we were talking about are the retail numbers from the NPD. They don't include, your Valve, your Steam numbers, which for something like the Orange Box, GameTap, which obviously contributed. But really, to what degree? Even a 50% or 100% boost in those numbers doesn't even put them in the 10 to 20% range of what they were doing in console games, even for the same game. And when you have a game like Call of Duty 4, that is a game that really was the traditional bastion of PC games.
And I think also, if you look at some of the more successful titles out there, obviously the numbers are a little bit better for PC game sales for a title like BioShock or Call of Duty 4 than they were for, maybe Quake Wars or Unreal Tournament 3. So I do think there's an element of quality that is going into this equation about what sold more and what hasn't. But still, when you look at the numbers for even the good games on the PC that are in that Game of the Year discussion, the numbers are still poor. And it's interesting that when we talked about Call of Duty 4 this week, a community manager for Infinity Ward, the developer behind Call of Duty 4, came out on his blog and said, Infinity Ward looked at the numbers for multiplayer players online that were using pirated or copies of the game or cracked, CDs, and he didn't say exactly what the numbers were, but he said that they were astounding and disturbing, and that he couldn't believe how many people were stealing this PC game or PC games in general, and he was really upset about it. And we can only speculate, right, on what that percentage is, but I have a feeling it's pretty significant.
And that plus those sales numbers, it has a snowball effect on PC only, especially game development. They're getting much better at doing these kind of cross-platform games. BioShock, Call of Duty 4, they look pretty good on consoles if you're honest. So for a lot of people, they'd rather watch it on their TV
Right.
with their friends there
Sure.
on the leather couch, rather than on their desk or whatever. So I think that is definitely drawing people to those top tier games that are being offered on multi-platform.
Yeah, and also I think when you see a game like, I mean, traditionally I think RPGs or like MMOs and strategy games, you tended to see more of them on the PC than the console. But you have a game like Mass Effect. I mean, I think that sold 1 million in its first month. That's a 360 only game.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder why Microsoft, BioWare, they decided this is going to be 360 only.
Yeah, forego the PC for the console. I think we're going to see a lot more of that going on. And honestly, I don't think you can really blame the developers at this point. I'm not putting this all on PC game piracy. I'm not. I mean, I know I've gone on the game piracy rant before, and piracy is one factor. I think PC hardware is another. And also, I think, you go into any retail store, whether it's Best Buy, Circuit City, anywhere, Target, Walmart, the PC gaming section of the electronics area is really small.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about as big as this table, whereas you go into the consoles, and they've got huge cabinets everywhere, and there's tons of titles, and it's a much bigger display, much bigger offering, and I just think that's all contributing to sort of the state that we're in with PC games, which is to say, guys, we're not going to have a lot of PC game exclusives anymore. You're going to see a lot of console ports, and if it's a case like World in Conflict or another game like that where it comes out on the PC first and then the developer says, you know what, we should port this to the console, I don't think PC gaming fans are going to be that upset about it. But if it's done the other way around,
that
has happened quite a bit. I mean, when you see a game like Kane and Lynch, all right, that sold 1 million copies already total, I think, in aggregate. When you see a game like that, which is famous for the GameSpot Gate controversy, and it didn't get great reviews. When you see a game like that and Assassin's Creed, which I gave a 5.5 to, they're selling 1 million copies out of the gate. And Crisis. I mean, this game was this was it for PC games, and it can't break 100,000 copies in its first month. That's not good news. So I think that this is the way it's going to go for a while.
Yeah, I mean, what that illustrates to me is that it's not even about the reviews that it's getting or even the kind of public sentiment about the game. It's the platform in general and the push that the companies are putting behind it, and just marketing, the desire of the consumer. I think it's just a shrinking. I think people are choosing, people who have both are choosing consoles and moving out of PC gaming rather than trying to keep upgrading.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting in 2008 to see how games like StarCraft 2, I mean, that's going to be a huge one. Sport, that's going to be a huge one. It's going to be interesting to see if it can pull some of that audience back into PC gaming. Because, listen, a game like Fallout 3, Fallout was a PC game, and now it's going to be on the console too. Get ready. I mean, this is the world we're living in now.
Yeah. That's all the time we have for this week. I'm Ben Meyer.
And I'm Rob Wright.
And we'll see you again next time.
Well, a quick shout out to the Hellgate Guru, guys. Thanks for the picture. We appreciate it.
Yeah.